Hey, welcome back to another edition here in the Nonprofit Leadership Studio with a focus on fundraising. A great guest tonight. We're going to be talking with Elizabeth Proctor, and Elizabeth has had a very rich career in fundraising, some great places. Now she serves as a consultant, and so Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and you look like you're in your 20s, yet you've had such a rich experience and background, huh?
Well, thanks. I've been doing this for about 30 years. So.
Wow, very good. So I want to start with a question that I've asked many people in this chair. If you're writing a book, Elizabeth, about fundraising, what are some of the key chapters for you?
I would have a chapter on the importance of boards and board development. Mm-hmm. I would have a chapter on how to tell your story and how to make sure your staff and your board knows how to tell the story. Mm-hmm. I would have a chapter called People Give to People, Not Organizations. Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you about telling a story. What is that all about? How do you tell a story about an organization?
It is putting into layman's terms what you do. Tell a story about a client. Tell a story about what great thing is going to happen if someone gives you a buck.
Yeah.
It's the great thing that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And the idea of people giving to people is really sort of all about relationships, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no magic. There are a lot of best practices in fundraising, but it really is about connecting the right person with another person, making sure that they know how to tell the story, and building relationships. And
I want to get into your history about sort of how you started and all of this, but you've had a couple of very big jobs in fundraising, right? You were the Director of Development for the Houston Area Women's Center. You were the Director of Development for the Children's Museum. You were a top development person at the ballet. And when you look at all of those places, was there one job that was more fun?
Wow.
Was there one job that was easier in terms of raising money? Tell me a little bit about the differences
Well,
there.
I'll tell you, the saying, the grass is always greener. I thought when I worked at the Houston Area Women's Center that the people in the arts got all the money. Mm-hmm. So I thought, oh gosh, those people over at that Children's Museum, that's who gets the money. And so when I went over to the Children's Museum, I thought, oh no, it's the people who are, help saving babies. That's who gets the money. So it's, the grass is not always greener on the other side. The most, I like working with people, so I loved the people that I worked with at the Women's Center. Ellen Cohen was one of the best bosses I've ever had, and a great fundraiser and a great mentor. So I loved that job. The people that I worked with at the Children's Museum were hilarious, and we had so much fun and had fun events. And we had a circus, and it was...
That was the Circus Flora back in the days.
Yeah. Gosh, if you ask me about challenging fundraising events, that was a 10-day circus is a challenging fundraising event. And the ballet was a great job too. Lots of really high-level donors, and that was and.
So is there one of those that taking away the personalities is easier to raise money with, or is it really all about the personalities?
It's about what makes a job better.
The fundraising easier.
Oh, the fundraising easier. Gosh, I mean, I'm not going to say that the fundraising was easier at the ballet. They just have such a great system and a great machine, and their board is phenomenal. And I mean, people, are dying to be on their board. I mean, so I guess it was a little easier it's a little easier sell. It's something, beautiful pictures that are beautiful. I mean, it was probably a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And they have such a set fundraising system.
Was it a bigger staff too overall?
It was much bigger. It was a bigger staff than the biggest staff that I've ever worked for, and I've never worked for a hospital or university, but it was
pretty sizable.
It was pretty sizable.
So let's go back. I mean, you grew up in Victoria, Texas.
I did.
So Houston was always the big city. We're always excited to come to Houston, probably for the visits. And
Yeah, I was a little scared of the traffic.
See the zoo, see the Astros.
Go to Astro World. That's what we wanted.
Oh, the Astro World. And then where'd you go to college?
I went to Sweetbriar College in Virginia and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill.
Wow. And was it hard, or was it sort of expected in your family to go that far away for college?
My father went to Washington and Lee University,
so
they kind of they wanted me to go do that and then
Yeah.
probably come back to the University of Texas. But I stayed at Sweetbriar and did my junior year abroad in Spain.
Wow.
And then ended up majoring in Spanish.
And you speak Spanish?
I do. I
Yeah.
wanted to.
Yeah. But then you got a job after that at the White House.
I did.
Talk about that a little bit.
So when I left school, I decided that I wanted to go to Washington D.C. and combine my government and Spanish majors and work for an embassy, and that didn't really work out. And I took a temp job at the Republican National Committee, and ended up staying there, working in fundraising, working in event planning, traveling around the country, helping candidates raise money. And kind of learned a lot about fundraising and putting together really quick events on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
And then worked for the White House for Ronald Reagan's second administration.
Wow. And how was it working for Ronald Reagan?
It was so great. It was, one of the joys of my life, and I'll never forget it, but I don't ever want to do it again.
It's interesting, and we live in a culture now where everything is politicized, but it was really, but when he became president, I mean, a couple of things were interesting about Ronald Reagan. One is that so many Democrats liked him, and the other was that he was just so likable.
Right.
That he was just a very likable, people think about Bill Clinton being likable, but Reagan was almost double likable than
I think so.
In some
I
ways,
thought he
right?
Was, yeah, and I was in my early 20s, so pretty naive about politics, and I thought it was just really, everything that I was going through was really normal, and that's the way I was going to kind of carry on my career forever. But now sometimes I kind of have to pinch myself thinking about some of the things that we did, but he was really.
So tell me about the transition and how long it was between White House and fundraising.
So I moved back to Texas. My husband decided to go to law school. I went to the University of Houston School of Law, and we moved back here, and I got a job at the Houston Area Women's Center, and Ellen gave me a chance, and I transitioned I talked her into believing that I could transition between political fundraising and nonprofit fundraising, and it turns out that I could.
Wow.
So, because it is about relationships, and they're not very different. It wasn't a very different transition. And
then the ballet, which was your last sort of big job, how did you transition between the ballet and then doing consulting, which you're doing now?
Good question.
And why did you travel?
Yeah. Maybe it was, gosh, I really enjoyed the ballet. I just thought that I'd kind of done about, I guess I was in 12 years of working for someone, and I thought that I might enjoy working for myself for a while. So I went into individual consulting, and then about 4 years ago, my business partner, Cate, and I decided to start a business together, because we were both doing consulting on our own and collaborating on some things, and decided, wouldn't it be fun to get together and start Cate Proctor. And so we have a small staff, and we have a lot of fun and try to help a lot of people.
Do people often think Cate Proctor is like one person?
Yes, always. And I think we knew that was going to happen, but.
Now, which one of you is Cate?
Which one's Cate? People are always asking me if I'm Cate Proctor.
Tell me, when organizations come to you, what is it? Why are they coming to you as a consultant?
So they're either coming to us because they do not have enough money to hire their own full-time development director, and they're looking to kind of reach the next level of fundraising. That they've either had their board helping them do fundraising, and they need some expert advice, or it's an organization who is in an interim position. They've had development staff leave, and they need some interim help. And we've done a few campaigns for people who need kind of extra assistance on something special. And
do they sometimes come in with sort of stars in their eyes, like,
yes,
I'm going to hire this consultant and I'm going to make a lot of money? How true is that? And what's the myth and the reality around that?
Right. We get that, and we get, I'm going to hire these consultants so I don't have to fundraise. Yeah, that's a lot, and we have to do a lot of explaining. But we try to do an assessment at the beginning, when we're first talking to a client, and really being realistic and having expectations that are the same. What our expectations are and what theirs are need to match, or it's going to be a disaster. I think we try to be really honest, but you can't make everyone do what you say. So, so you just have to be,
especially when you're the consultant.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So when you go, let's take a small organization, small, medium size, that you and I would both be in agreement. They have a great mission. What's going to determine when you go in there if they're going to be successful or not? What are the characteristics that you look for within an organization that will determine, oh yeah, this was going to be good, or we'll try this, but I'm not sure it's going to work out. What's the differentiation there?
I think a willingness. If they show a willingness to make phone calls and to fundraise and to do the work instead of what I alluded to earlier about we're going to hire people so we don't have to do it. I think that they have to be involved. And I look at the board too. I mean, boards make a huge difference, but it doesn't mean that they all have to be CEOs of companies. If they're willing to make phone calls and they're willing to to make the connections that the organization needs to go to the next level, then it will work.
So board members, well, if they're not CEOs, they could just if they just had one friend somewhere else that could help. Sometimes that can make a difference, right?
Just a high school friend. I mean, it's just when I hear executive directors say, "Oh, my board doesn't fundraise," then we have to have a conversation. Why not? Maybe you need a new board. I mean, boards need to fundraise.
And sometimes executive directors aren't asking their boards, or they're just making the assumption it's not a board that will fundraise, when indeed, if the board were asked and or taught how to fundraise, the story could be different.
It's true. Yeah, they're not asked or trained, and really, it's not giving them a magic recipe. It's just talking to them about how not scary it is.
So when you've seen big success stories, tell me about a big success story of organizations that you've worked with that they seem to do everything right, and what was that they were doing right?
Wow. I guess telling the story well, really having a board and a staff that really know what they're doing, and that it ties in with the mission, and they're not mission creeping to generate money just for the sake of getting a grant. That they know exactly what they're doing. They have strategic plans. I think having a good rudder, having a great executive director that's leading the ship, but not that's not owning the company. That it's really the board's company. They're
a lot of the basic things, really, right?
Yeah, but it's so rare. It really is rare.
that everything comes together.
Comes together. Yeah.
Usually
there's a piece missing.
Yeah. When you look around town, and one of the questions, what are the organizations that if we take away, after doing this for a while, everyone says, Rice University, the MFA, the Grand Opera, Texas Children's, and MD Anderson. After taking those away, who are some of the other high-performing fundraising organizations in town that you think, that's how it should be done?
I think Houston Food Bank does a really great job.
Yeah.
And I think they're really smart about the mergers.
Brian teaches as well in this program. Yeah.
I mean, I kind of admire what they've done because it seemed so small. I mean, I admire.
Well, before Brian came, it was a different place, wasn't it? Yeah.
I think, I talked about the ballet, and I really think that they do a great job, and they also do a great job keeping things in the black, which is one of the only arts organizations who really does that. So I admire that. I think the Dress for Success has done a really great job. I mean, they were really, that was someone's idea and it's grown into a
that Nancy Levicki is over there,
yeah. And they have a great board.
And they just built a brand new building for themselves.
Beautiful building, and
I need to bring her into this class. She'd be really good, And do you see many organizations where you think, man, if they had the right executive director, this place would be completely different because it's such a great mission.
Yeah.
People would want to be on that board.
I'm not going to. Yes.
Have you seen a lot of those?
I mean, a fair share.
It's interesting,
and I only
isn't
think
it?
about it when it's really a shame.
Yeah.
So.
And I find the same thing. You see organizations and you think, oh my word, with just a little bit of, maybe a lot of elbow grease, actually.
And you know what, to me, the difference is executive directors who are willing, are willing to get out and meet people, excuse me, and are not behind the desk CEOs.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Get out there and meet people.
Yeah.
And that's what you found with Ellen Cohen when you were at the
Absolutely.
Houston Area Women's Center. She
she
really
was great.
wanted to,
she
to
loved
raise a lot of money.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Twitterverse and see what students are tweeting in. So Mandy Lovett starts off right away with the question, what's been your most challenging experience in fundraising to date?
Okay. I worked for an organization of pharmacists, compounding pharmacists. It was an International Academy of Compounding Pharmacists. It was a national organization, and they hired me to raise money for their public affairs campaign. They were fighting Big Pharma, and I traveled around the country for 12 months. Went to 47 states, I think.
Wow.
And went pharmacy to pharmacy raising individual dollars. And
That's
we raised
hard.
$5 million.
You did, but you went. You visited all those
Yeah.
pharmacies.
Went to pharmacies.
On
I had a
average, how
list
much
of
would you?
pharmacies.
On average, how much did you get from
Gosh,
each pharmacy?
I would think, $2,500, $5,000. I mean,
Wow.
they're successful business owners, and some gave a lot more. So,
Very nice.
yeah, it was challenging but fun.
So here's similar to what we've talked about. Jennifer Tomasic wants to know, what are some of the biggest shortcomings in organization fundraising plans? Biggest areas that they need to improve?
I think people concentrate on foundation fundraising and corporate fundraising and skip the all-important individual fundraising. It's probably the hardest, but it is the largest percentage of money out there, and I think that's probably.
Is it easier to go after special event and foundation money?
Yeah, I think it is.
Is it-
because
is that why
because
people
you
do this?
think that you don't have to have the relationships that.
But you do.
But you do.
Yeah.
To be really successful. But
Yeah.
anybody can have an event. I mean, I do a lot of events, so I don't want to minimize the importance of events. And Houston is an event city. We love events. So I'm not minimizing the money that can be raised. There are $1 million events in Houston. But
How do I get to do one of those?
I know. I know, exactly. You have get a really, really good chair.
It's all about the chairs.
It's all
isn't
about
it?
the chairs.
It's interesting as we do events, and you're familiar with our events. What we find a lot of times is that we're bringing the Temptations right in a couple weeks, and people think, well, that's fantastic. The Temptations are coming in, and we've had Kool and the Gang, and we've had Jay Leno, but every time it's not about the entertainment. It's all about, you start with all the board members, but it's all about who the chairs bring in, right? That's sort of the lagniappe, the extra, if you will.
It's the chairs and what they've given to, who owes them, a favor, if they're willing to, really sit down and make phone calls for a week, to sell some tables. And yeah, it is about the chairs.
Wow, very good. Another good question from Jennifer. She wants to know, how have fundraising strategies changed over the last 20 years?
Well, social media is probably the biggest.
Is that
biggest
making much
change.
money? Or do
Yeah.
we still think it's going to make a lot of
Well, I
money?
mean, it makes a lot of money for some organizations who do it well, but you have to have staff that are really knowledgeable, and it's not something that you can just do a little of. You have to do a lot of it and have someone really dedicated to that. But I've seen, a lot of people do it really well.
President Obama was
Yeah,
very
I was going to
successful.
just say that. I mean, they had a 20-something-year-old, a very young woman during the first campaign, just changed the way people fundraise for campaigns. I mean, really raised millions and millions of dollars, $5 at a time, and proved that it can be done. So, yeah.
And I keep getting emails from the president asking for $5.
Yeah,
You think if he was going to send me an email, he'd ask for more than $5.
The Orange Show, Art Car Parade does that. They do it pretty well.
They do a good job with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, they do.
I must not have donated to them, or
Yeah.
else I'd be getting
You
email
would.
from Esmeralda Jimenez has a question about great fundraising ideas for museums. You've been at the Children's Museum.
Right.
You would say no circuses, don't do the circus.
Well, we raise a lot of money and a lot of awareness, but wow, that's a way to run down your staff. though.
But it sounds like a
It
great
was
idea.
Well, we had fun. I mean,
And you
but
raised
I
a
was
lot
in
of
my-
money?
I was in my early 30s.
Did you just do it one time?
We did. It was 10 days.
But I mean, did you do it the next year as well?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
5 years, I think we did it.
Wow. And then you stopped just because everyone was exhausted?
Yeah, I think it just got tired.
Yeah.
And they may have, Circus Flora may have disbanded. I don't know.
Lots-
But you know,
lots of
I got to drive the Walindas around Houston to pick out a place where they could, do their tightrope act. And
Was that for the Children's Museum
the
as
Children's
well?
Museum? Yeah.
Wow.
They were part of Circus Flora.
Oh, wow. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, so that's
So
fun.
any other ideas for museums?
Gosh, I did. I worked for DiverseWorks for a while, and they did.
did?
I did, and they did some really inventive fundraisers. They did, a lot.
Did you work
of
when Sarah was
auctions.
there?
I did.
Oh, okay,
yeah, I worked
good.
with Sarah.
Yeah. They're very interesting, aren't they?
Yeah, I love DiverseWorks.
Yeah, I used to go to their stuff on a regular basis. So one of the other questions is, Esmeralda is also asking, the number one area that you think you help your clients. When a client hires Cate and Proctor, what are they going to really be helped with?
It's so hard to answer because every single client we have is different and has a different need, or is really good at one thing and maybe not so great in another. And I think that Jennifer and I do a good job at kind of figuring out, where we can be helpful. If that is giving some board advice or board training, or just kind of breaking down some best practices, or making it not so scary for board members. I think we do a good job at that. I think we are really good writers, which is, I think, a lost art.
Yeah.
And I think we can take a case statement and kind of make magic out of that. I think we do a good job at that.
So a couple of things there, yeah.
Yeah.
My experience with consultants really is with Jennifer and with you guys. And there are many consultants. I've used Dan Murphy, and I've used Kim Sterling,
Sure.
Bubba Silverstein. I think that's most of the consultants in town. What's the one who used to be at Episcopal? I've used her too.
Oh, yeah. I can't.
She
it's
has a
not coming
funny
to me.
little name, but anyway. And what I found is that when Children at Risk was significantly smaller, it really helped to bring Jennifer in, right, and help us with grant writing and sort of growth. Is using a consultant like you guys better when you're just a smaller, or can you use it, because we use you now still, right, and we're a larger organization. Is there a prime time, if you will, to use consulting?
Well, I think there are different kinds of consultants, and Jennifer and I are a lot more hands-on than some some consultants who, I think that's what distinguishes us from others that might tell you what you need to do and then turn around and hit the door and leave you with maybe not the staff that can handle that. But so you need to know, organizations need to know who they're hiring, what kind of consultant they're hiring. Are they hiring someone that's going to consult and actually execute, or are they going to tell you what you need to be doing? That's
very good. Mandy jumped back on and wanted to know about, apparently there's some story with you and Michael Jackson in the White House. Tell me the story about you and Michael Jackson. You guys were locked in a bathroom together?
No. He locked himself in the bathroom. Okay, back up. I was doing an event at the White House where he was getting a Presidential Medal of Freedom, I think.
Oh.
It was a presidential award from Ronald Reagan. And he got nervous and...
He was very shy, wasn't he?
Yes, and locked himself in the bathroom of the White House, which you cannot do. And now, today, I cannot even imagine that they would have given him the courtesy of calling me, because I was the program person, and saying, you need to get him out of the bathroom. And so I had to rap on the door, Mr. Jackson.
And he came out.
And he did. I just,
you have such a sweet voice.
I just said there are two big Secret Service agents behind me who are going to come in.
Okay. And then
So
he came over
out.
and got his Medal of Freedom.
He came out, yeah. Took him outside, and there were only 100 people who could be in the Rose Garden, and I told him that there, was
Not a big
not a big deal. And
Yeah. Was he the biggest celebrity you've ever met besides maybe the president?
I met Princess Diana.
That's a pretty big celebrity.
Big.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I got to. Yeah,
Cool.
I do pinch myself. It was pretty cool.
Okay, there's a couple of questions about Michael Jackson. I'm not going to ask them all. So Marissa wants to ask, or Marissa is asking, she has no real experience to speak of, but could she still be successful? No real marketing experience. Could she still be effective in development?
Sure.
Do you have to have marketing experience to be in development?
No, I think you have to have a personality. And I tell people, a lot of our clients ask us to help them find employees, and really it's all about personality. It is, if you are a person who will you're a doer and you will figure out how to get something done. You don't mind, talking to strangers. You have a pleasant, happy demeanor. You can tell a story. I think you're a great. I think it's all about personality and problem solving.
So, so if you just had a whole development staff that was full of sort of smart, friendly people with good work ethic, lots of detail focus.
You can teach the best practices pretty easily.
So if Marissa has a good personality, then she's okay.
I think, if she finds an organization that you believe in, that is, you really have to, I think.
Tell us about that, because you have worked, because we've heard this before from a lot of development people. Yeah, we see you've had a number of jobs in different areas, but I guess you could develop a passion for those different things.
Yeah. Well, those weren't the only jobs that were out there. The openings. Yeah. There are other openings, but those really fit my personality and what I wanted to do. So, and then Jennifer and I have been really, fortunate that. I mean, I don't think that we've ever. Well, we did decide that one was not a good fit for a client. Wasn't a good fit.
You can tell us that.
I'm not going to tell you that. But yeah, you really you have to. Yeah, because it's hard work. I mean, it is hard work, and it's not a normal 9 to 5. It's something that you really, once you start learning about a cause, you get really involved, and it's something that you take home with you, and you have to love it. You have to really believe in what your organization, your client is about.
Your favorite client of all time?
Children at Risk.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking the exact same thing. And after Children at Risk, who would it be?
Oh,
because you've done a lot of fun people.
Yeah. I love DiverseWorks. That's so hard.
It's too hard. It was easier
hard.
when we just did Children at Risk. Harry Davis wants to know, what's the most complex component of fundraising?
Complex component. I mean, to me, on kind of the capital campaign side, which we have done some capital campaigns, but we usually bring in someone to help us with kind of the financing part. If you have to do bridge loans and things to me, that's the most complex.
Yeah.
That's not my strong suit, but
and sometimes government grants can be a little complex sometimes, I guess, but nothing too difficult, I guess.
I think the kind of compliance part of government grants is probably the hardest part.
The grants management and the whole thing.
Yeah.
Let's see. When one thinks of developing, this is Harry Davis again, developing a budget for an event, what are some of the components that are part of that equation?
That's a good question. So you have venue and food. That's probably going to be the biggest part of your expenses. You've got printing. You have if you do any kind of marketing and decor.
And so if you and I were going to pick a really great charity and we wanted to do a good event and we knew a good chair, but we wanted the biggest bang for our buck. Wow. So critique me on this. Yep. Would it be I find a hotel, because I know that if I could get a big room in the hotel, all I have to do is pay for the meal, right? And then I'll get the venue for free. And I'll do a luncheon because then I don't have to buy alcohol, hopefully, right? Is that going to be the sort of the biggest bang for my buck, to do maybe a breakfast or a lunch at a hotel?
We've done some analysis analysis on that, and a hotel is definitely it's going to be more cost effective, but you also have to weigh, are people going to be excited about going to a hotel? So sometimes, you've got to listen to your board and listen to kind of, your chairs and know what where your audience wants to go. If they're used to going to a big tented event on, the Sabine Promenade, it's going to be hard to move them to the Hilton.
There's something about excitement of certain places.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, and we moved our luncheon. We used to have it at what's now the Royal Sonesta, and it's been a number of things over the years. And we moved to the Zaza, and we noticed that the space wasn't as good, but the buzz, the board liked sort of the buzz of being there, and that it's sort of eclectic.
Right.
Do you find that?
Yeah, that's important. I think that's important, and it is important. That the buzz is important because then, they're going to come back. And that means a lot, yeah.
Wow. A lot of interesting things in terms of doing an event, sort of all the things to look
A lot of different
after.
things to think about. But, I mean, as far as cost effectiveness, hotels can really help. And you can turn a hotel into, a hotel ballroom into something really special. We do work for Buffalo Preservation Association, and they do all of their events at different people's homes on the bayou. So that's always really interesting because people like to see other people's homes, especially beautiful Houston homes.
Yeah, is that expensive to do that?
Well, we have to use caterers, and it's expensive, but it's
I had a good friend of yours and mine say, Bob, I'd love to do an event in my home. And we got very excited. And I had a friend who coordinated a lot of these types of events. And so he worked with her to put it on. And she had all her furniture moved so she could fit tables and stuff in. And by the time we paid for all the furniture storage and moving and everything, we made a grand total, a net of about $400.
Oh, gosh.
And so sometimes, you have to, I mean, that's part of doing an event though, right? Figuring out where you're spending all the money.
Yeah, right. Oh, and you have to have a budget. Yeah, these events for BPA, we do, they're for 450 people. It's always outside or inside, outside. So
a lot of people do their events at the Junior League here in Houston.
Very cost effective.
Is it very cost effective?
Very.
Is it real cheap? Is that it? Or?
It is, but they do a beautiful job.
Yeah.
They do a beautiful job, and it's a great place for a breakfast or a luncheon. And
people like the little orange rolls.
They're delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A good place for
Houston
events.
Center for Photography does their print auction there. It's an evening event, and it's really nice.
Yeah. Jason Covington wants to know about telephone solicitation. Are people still doing that, and is it a valid means of raising funds?
Well, I still get calls, so I guess some people are doing it.
Yeah. You still have a landline in your home?
I do.
Yeah.
Someone's told me that I need it.
I think there are like 6 people that have that.
I guess I'm one. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I did move away from the flip phone, so. Yeah, I think yes, people are still doing it, and I have done it before, and it's
colleges
hard.
still
it's
do
hard.
it. Sort of, they have the alumni calling you.
Well, and I still do work with some clients that we have a board telethon, where we get board members to call and thank donors, or say this is the last week of our annual campaign, can you give? And that works really well. But you've got to have cell phone numbers, so sometimes that's a little tricky.
It is. Jason has another question. What has made you successful, Elizabeth? Can you identify something that separates you from others in your field? What is it about you? It's a girl with something extra.
Oh,
Isn't that a show or something?
I don't know. I am. I'm just kind of a fighter. I enjoy it.
You're super friendly and super happy, though. I mean, is that part of your success?
I think that's part of it.
Yeah, and you're sort of a get it done.
Yeah, get it. Yeah. Well, I think that's what it is. I mean, I think people have told me that I'm kind of a get it done person.
Delicia Blanton wants to know, do you have a favorite type of fundraising event yourself?
Children at Risk, The Temptations. No. A favorite fundraising event. Gosh, I like events that don't have live auctions.
You don't like live auctions?
I don't like
Why
live
don't you
auctions.
like live auctions?
I think they're a buzzkill. I just think
How
that
so?
they're.
I see people get so excited about live auctions.
Well, I think if you keep it to a few items, but I just think that it's a drag.
Have you ever seen Frank Billingsley do a live auction?
No, I haven't.
It's so fun.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's a great fundraiser. He's the weatherman.
Yeah.
He's really, really good.
Yeah.
So, Spencer Lightsey wants to know about the different skills needed for fundraising in arts and culture as opposed to social sciences or social services and civic services.
Different skills needed.
Is it more about relationships? Is it more about having an experience arts experience you could talk about?
Well, I think people who are passionate about the arts are just as passionate as people who are, passionate about children. I think, I didn't find that it was very different. You still have to know your subject. You still have to know, what you're doing to help. What great thing is going to, happen. It's I don't know about the skills. I think large and small organizations, there are different skills. I think if you work for a university or a hospital and you're working portfolios and those are different skills. I think it's more to do with size, but that's just mine.
Tell me about the type of people that are fundraising, sort of backgrounds of people. Are there types of people? I mean, I didn't grow up wealthy, and is it just as easy for me to ask money of someone who's wealthy, even though I may have a very different background that they do? I mean, is it an obstacle for me?
I don't think so. I don't think it is. And I didn't grow up wealthy.
Right.
So,
yeah. But I think that's a question people have,
no,
right?
I agree.
If I'm a first generation student and I came to UHD and I'm getting my master's at UHD, and the ballet is a very different world for me. I still think that that person could be you may have to learn a little bit about the ballet, but you can still be a pretty good fit, even though you don't have a different background.
If you're passionate about performing arts, you are going to get along great with someone. You're going to develop a bond no matter what your economic background is, I believe. But I don't think that's
sort of an interesting thing, isn't
it? But I also think that it's important to remember that I try not to be in the position to be the one asking for money. That's not, as a development director.
Yeah, talk about that, because that's very important.
Yeah, my role is not to ask for money. My role is to make the connection between peers that can ask for money. So my role is to facilitate a friend of so-and-so's and provide the information that they need to go make a successful ask. I probably will not be the right person to make that ask. A staff person may not be the right person to make the ask. Sometimes in a university setting, it is, and I mean sometimes if I've developed a relationship as a development director, I can make a direct ask. But sometimes it's, especially for really major gifts, it's more important to have someone on the board or someone who has a personal relationship to make the ask.
A couple of years ago, Elizabeth, I went up to Boston. The Children's Museum of Boston brought me in. They were interested in me being the president, the head of the Children's Museum in Boston. And they said, we really want you to come here. And my wife said no. But one of the reasons that they were interested is because of all the fundraising, right? My background in fundraising. How different would it have been for someone from Houston to go to a city like Boston and to do fundraising? I mean, is it that simple? If someone is a good fundraiser in one place, is it easily transferable? Or might they have made a mistake if I had accepted and gone up to Boston? Or might I have made a mistake by doing that?
I think you would have made a horrible mistake by doing that, but because we're glad you stayed here. I think, I don't know how they fundraise in Boston, but I think that it's, it is relationships. I think if they really wanted you there, they would have done their best to introduce you to all the players in Boston, and you would have just, taken your skills to another place. Yeah, I've seen, Gary Tenereau at Museum of Fine Arts. He, wasn't from Houston, and he's doing, gosh, an incredible job.
Yeah.
So I think you don't have to be.
Yeah.
Houston is unique, though.
It is. I mean, there's a lot of money in very different places here.
Right.
There's some unusual things about
And
Houston.
the event, kind of the emphasis on special events and galas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unique. I'm happy.
And with this extreme wealth that we have, and in large numbers, right? As opposed to Boston, which might be a small.
Right.
Smaller.
And a real tradition of philanthropy.
Yeah.
I mean, we're
Sort
lucky.
of an interesting thing, yeah. Jonathan wants to know, and I think this might be an easy answer, are people born as good fundraisers, or do you make them? Can you make a good fundraiser? If someone's smart?
No, I think I've tried, and it
really?
hasn't worked. I think it really is about personality.
Yeah.
I really think that.
So they're born with a certain type of personality.
I think you have a personality to do this work.
Wow. Interesting.
I've just probably made a lot of people really angry,
No,
but I think
that's okay. Ebu Oswawi wants to know, fundraising can be very stressful. Can
yes,
it be? Yeah.
Yes.
What drew you to doing fundraising, special events, that sort of thing, when it's so stressful?
I think it is kind of that high you get afterwards. Like when you're going through it, you say, I don't know why I do this. I don't know why I do this. But then when it's over, it feels so good you can't wait to do it again. I think it's the adrenaline almost every day.
It's sort of neat when you get big checks in the mail.
It is great.
Too.
It's great. The little checks are good too. But
the little checks are good too.
Yeah.
The other day, I mean, we've received big money, and then the other day we got this $40,000 check from a corporation, and you would have sworn that we just like won $5 million.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just sort of fun
great.
to.
And for me too, I have some clients. I mean, sometimes at Children at Risk, I mean, I can't stop from getting teary-eyed. I mean, I really feel, I really feel close to the work that my, and I don't get to do that work. I don't get to do that one-on-one work with kids or, patients or whatever. But this is my contribution.
So Latrina Dorsey wants to know the most rewarding thing about the job. Is it those?
That's what it
the
is.
Successes.
That's what it is.
Yeah. And then Corey McKay wants to know, that's a question we've sort of asked before. Sort of challenging parts of your job, but I think we've sort of talked about that. Nini wants to know, what did you learn at the White House that is really helping you now in the nonprofit sector?
I learned attention to detail. They demanded great attention to detail, and I think that that's a habit, and especially when you learn that young.
And people, everyone's a perfectionist there, right? I mean, everything has to be done perfectly.
You have to be, yeah.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people sort of checking up on you, right? I would guess.
Mm-hmm. Yes, a lot of people checking up. Yeah, but it is like when you do an event plan, it's 8 o'clock, 8:01, 8:02. I mean, that's the detail. I'm talking about digging down, always having plan B's and C's and D's, and yeah.
So here, Latrina has this question. Have you ever declined providing consulting services to a potential client, and why is that? And what advice do you leave them with? What a great question,
Yeah,
Latrina.
it is, and I have. Jennifer and I have done that, and we just didn't feel that our beliefs were in, mesh with theirs, and we, gave them some other, referrals, and. We met with them and talked to them about ideas that we had. We didn't just say, oh my gosh, no, we didn't run out the door. But we really talked to them about some fundamentals and where we thought that they could make some changes. But in the end, we didn't think that we were a good fit.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Have you done that very often?
We've just done it once.
Yeah, and it's also, it must be hard though to balance because it's an economic deal for you guys too, right? You want to have clients,
right?
You want to be able to.
And
feed
we
yourselves.
we have turned down, or we've kind of talked ourselves, not turned down, but talked ourselves out of something when we thought that it wasn't the right time, or that we've come in and done a quick assessment and decided, okay, well, they're not ready. You need to go, do X, Y, Z, and then we can help. Or that our expectations were different. They were expecting us to do one thing, and we knew that we wouldn't be able to do it.
So I'm going to ask you a really hard question now.
Okay.
You're working right now at Children at Risk. You're seeing everything that's going on. What are the things that are happening that are right about what we do in fundraising, and what could be better at Children at Risk?
This is.
It's just we had
Okay.
just 3 million
Yeah.
people watching. That's about all.
Well, you do so much right because you are an executive director or CEO that gets out and meets people, and you know everyone, and so that you're definitely doing that right. You need to have a development staff.
Yeah, we do.
That's good.
We could use that right now.
And you have a really good board. I would suggest that you need. I think you could find some. I hate using the word socialite, but I don't really know how else to phrase it. But I do think that there are some kind of really great fundraisers that would love to be on your board.
I mean, it's nice. We have friends like Carolyn Farb and
Exactly.
Philomena Bear.
Yeah, I think that
but
helps.
we could use more.
I think you could because you do have several special events, and so I think that will help you attract more chairs.
Yeah.
But I think y'all do a great job because you do great work. And
Well, it's great that we have you guys helping us.
Thanks.
Well, in the interim, while we don't have our development staff as we rework that. Okay, some of the really tough questions now. Your favorite restaurant in Houston?
Okay, so Brennan's for celebrations.
Oh yeah.
And Taqueria Tapatía for Mexican food.
And that's like cheap.
It's my favorite.
Tapatía is
fantastic.
it's really inexpensive. Do you know that? Do you ever go to Brennan's for lunch on a weekday? You know they have 25-cent martinis. It's outrageous. I'm telling you.
Okay, well maybe we'll have to do that after after stand-up.
And there's a couple of lawyers who are big friends of Children at Risk, and they often invite me to go to lunch with them, and they always want to go to Brennan's. And we brought along one of our young attorneys because I wanted them to meet him, and he's fighting human trafficking, and he'd never been to Brennan's. And so they're like, oh, well, we better get martinis so you can get this experience. And then, they bring out the garlic bread so you could have this with the martinis. And then they're like, well, you better, to the young attorney, Todd, you better try some of this turtle soup. This is the best place. And then all the meal, and then finally you have to have the bananas Foster's. This was lunchtime, and you could have rolled us out of there.
Gosh, then I can't. Yeah, I can't.
It was fantastic. It was wonderful.
We'll have to do that after the fundraiser.
So, is there a best kept secret in Houston for you? A place, park, venue?
Wow. I have great places that I go walk in Herman Park because I live near Herman Park, and I love it so much. But
is that Japanese Garden still there?
Okay,
that's a great little secret
place. Great place.
Yeah, and now it's free,
wonderful.
right? You remember when you used to have to pay for that? Yeah.
They have a donation box, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Is that your favorite secret venue?
Yeah, I love it.
And when they make the Elizabeth Proctor movie, the story in Hollywood, who's going to play you?
Oh, gosh. No one's going to watch it, so it's going to have to, Julia Roberts. So at least people
because she
will
looks
watch
so
it.
much like you.
She looks so much
How
like
about
me.
Renee Zellweger? Because she could probably, like a younger Renee Zellweger, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so good.
Yeah, perfect.
Elizabeth, thank you for all the
Thank
work that you help so many organizations in town, and I know that you and Jennifer, you really have a heart. You really care about these places, and that's so great. And thank you for being with us here in the class and for helping us understand fundraising just a little bit more.
Well, thank you, and I wish all your students good luck. And
well,
let me know if you have any
They're lucky
questions.
Students when they get to hear people like you.
Oh, thanks.
We will see you guys next time here at the Nonprofit Leadership Studio. Until then, keep up the great work. Take care.